And Illman Mike Beer, the feature race at Aqueduct on Saturday is the $100,000 Haynesfield Stakes. Let's take a look at this field. And unfortunately for Mike Beer, there's no show wagering for this year's edition of the Haynesfield. It is a 6-horse field. Mr. Buff, 4-5 on the morning line, and why not? He's won his last 5 non-graded stakes appearances. His last 2 races have resulted in Beyer speed figures of 101 and 100. Yeah. He's won 13 of 35, and if he runs in the top 3 here, he's a millionaire.
Listen, he's way the horse to beat in this race. If you take out, it's just so interesting to go through his PPs, because if you take out, he's not a graded stakes horse. They tried him in 3 graded stakes races last year. He was nowhere in any of them. If you take those races out, he's won 5 straight, 9 of his last 10. He is the top New York bred on the grounds, and he is going to be a short price in this race, and it's not going to be easy to beat.
But there is a question mark, and the question mark is this. He is going to be cutting back to a 1-turn mile. Mr. Buff has found himself at a mile and an eighth. He is stretched out to a mile and an eighth, around 2 turns at Aqueduct especially, and he just seems unstoppable. He's good at a mile, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. Is he as good at a mile as he is a mile and an eighth? And is he vulnerable at a mile?
I mean, maybe that's the one, if you're looking to take a shot against this horse at a very short price, I think that is the one thing you would probably want to lean on. It's just that his really good form, and he's been a good horse from day one, but his really good form came when they finally stretched him out around 2 turns, going 9 furlongs. He's almost unstoppable in those races. I mentioned he was 9 for his last 10 outside of the graded stakes ranks. The one loss when they went the 1-turn mile in the commentator back in May. He ran well that day, but he couldn't get it done.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. Advantage Mr. Buff if Timeform US is right. This is all single file. They're passing the stands for the first time at Yonkers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This race is a blue bar scenario according to Timeform US, which would favor horses on or near the early lead. They expect Mr. Buff to make the lead. I'm not so sure that Syndergaard is just going to allow that to happen off the layoff. He's going to show fresh speed, I would think.
I would think he would too. I mean, he's certainly fast enough to go up there and turn this thing into a race if they decide to ride him that way. We'll see what happens.
Let's watch Mr. Buff's win in the Jazzle, his 2nd consecutive win in the Jazzle. He was on the lead and inside. They took him off the rail turning into the stretch. He's very late to change leads, but it doesn't matter. He still wins by 5 with a triple-digit Beyer speed figure. Sloppy track, fast track. Listen, he's just the horse to beat. I think we've pretty much said that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if he does get away with an easy lead.
It will be. I mean, if he does get away with an easy lead, you can probably forget about it. They'll never catch him in the stretch. You can just see, especially how well he stays the mile and eighth, because you saw him on his wrong lead most of the way, but he doesn't stop, or he just keeps grinding and grinding. That's why he's so good at that distance. If he gets loose on the lead here, he's almost unbeatable.
As for Syndergaard, he's best known for dropping one of the more heartbreaking photo finishes in a Grade 1 race in recent memory, losing by a nose in the Grade 1 Champagne after doing all the work on the front end. And that race just kind of knocked the starch out of Syndergaard, didn't he? He never really came back as a 3-year-old. He's found himself as sort of a New York bred shorter distance horse. Now, we talk about Mr. Buff finding the mile a little bit too short. Do you think a mile's a little long for Syndergaard?
I mean, I don't know if it's a little long for him. He's actually run well at a mile the few times that they've tried it, so I don't worry about the distance with him. We'll just see about the layoff. When they came off the layoff with him last year, he did not run well. Even as a 3-year-old when they came back, he didn't run well off the layoff as a 3-year-old either. He had a little bit of an excuse that day at Churchill Downs, but he still didn't run well, so I wonder what you'll get off the layoff. I feel like they got to come out running, though, don't they?
I think they got to come out running, and I think he's going to be pumped up off the layoff. And I generally trust John Terranova off a layoff. So you remember, it's only been a couple of months ago where he brought Stan the Man back off about a 200-day layoff to win the Queen's County. So this is a confident placement for John, putting Syndergaard in this race. Let's watch his race in the commentator. It was back on May the 27th. He was in against Mr. Buff, who finishes 3rd. He finishes 4th. He's in behind horses, tracking the pace. And Louis Saez, who was aboard in this day, is going to alter course to the outside. Like Mr. Buff in the Jazzle, it takes him a while to change leads. He eventually does, and he finishes evenly. And after this race, Terranova decided to give him a break.
Yeah, he got time off after this race, so I don't, maybe something happened here. Maybe it was just too long of a campaign. Whatever it is, you saw him alter course there, like he was really going to pick up and run. He didn't do that. He just sort of finished evenly. Nothing wrong with that performance. So he was in good form at that time. We'll see how he comes back.
Honor Up, I think, is a true sleeper in here for trainer Michelle Nevin. This horse won this race last year, beat Syndergaard, beat Twisted Tom, who's also in here, then ran in the Grade 1 Carter. World of Trouble, who won the Grade 1 Carter, is so good that they just named a race after him at Gulfstream Park that's going to be run on Saturday. Also, he finished ahead of the Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Vino Rosso, who was fourth. And he did a lot of work in that race, battling on the lead down towards the inside before getting tired. I think that race knocked everything out of him. He ran on the commentator.
Right.
He didn't do much. I think Michelle Nevin did the right thing, giving him plenty of time. They brought him back, going 6 furlongs in a race that to me just looked like a prep. Let's watch Honor Up, 6 furlong race over an extremely sloppy track. And he's up close to the pace down towards the inside, and he's understandably going to get tired.
Yeah, I guess in some ways the difference between he and Syndergaard is who both went away after the commentator, that commentator we watched. This horse has a prep on the way back here. He kept up close in behind the lead. You see him altering clear there. He just gets tired at the end. I think in a lot of ways it's a perfect prep race for this horse. Show some speed, get tired through the stretch, and now he's second off the layoff. You mentioned that he won this race last year. He beat Syndergaard by a nose, but he was way better than that in that race. He totally blew the break in there, had a lot to overcome, and just the fact that he did it, I think you got to give him a little extra credit for that. And he's another horse. He was in great form at that time, and then he missed a lot of time. I like it that he's second off the layoff here.
And I like that after this race, he has come back with a couple of really fast 5 furlong workouts for Michelle Nevin. He just looks like a horse that has that lung blower. He's ready to go second off the layoff. Let's take a look at I Love Jackson, who's coming back off a week layoff for Linda Rice. This horse has just gotten very good. He's won 5 of his last 6 races. He took a non-winner as a one other than last week. He's going to angle to the outside right now. He is in third, like several of the other horses in this race. It takes him a while to change leads, but once he does, he goes by these overmatched horses. This is only a non-winner as a one other than. This would be his stakes debut if Linda runs him back. Linda does well off short breaks.
Yeah, she does. We'll see if she actually decides to run him here. There's no knocking the form that he's in, obviously. This is a much tougher spot. I respect the fact that he's gotten a lot better and that his figures keep heading the right way. He keeps taking small steps forward, but he's going to have to improve again.
You said that it was a lifetime ago when Syndergaard ran in the Champagne. It feels like a lifetime ago when Twisted Tom was winning 5 stakes races and ended up running in the Belmont Stakes where he was 9-1 against Taprit. This is a horse that was claimed by AC Avia 4 starts back, and he's now won 2 out of his last 3, including this race at 1 1/8. Now, like Mr. Buff, I think this horse is a little bit better at longer distances. He's second from the left on the outside, and he's going to run down this field. Fleet Irish is also in this race. He's on the far outside. He just can't get by Twisted Tom. Twisted Tom, though, to me, at a shorter distance, needs pace.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like him as much at the 1-turn mile as I do. You can just see how well he's staying here to turn away Fleet Irish. They both ran well in this race. Twisted Tom, he had a really big down period in his career there where they just couldn't get him good. AC Avia has been on a really good run this winter. He's gotten this horse back into form, winning 2 out of his last 3. I don't really like him cutting back, though.
As for Fleet Irish, that was a rock-solid effort. He lost a little bit more ground than the winner. But just watching that race, you wonder if just Twisted Tom A is better, and Twisted Tom is sort of a second-tier contender in this race, which makes this horse a bit of an outsider. He is in consistent and sneaky good form.
He is, and you can just expect him to show up every time. The pace projector that we showed early does not help this horse. He's going to sit it out and try and make one run.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the $100,000 Haynesfield. I just think Mr. Buff's going to get through this. I think he's going to get to the front, and either at some point he's going to dissuade Syndergaard, or Syndergaard's going to feel the effects of that layoff. I wish Syndergaard had a race like Honor Up, your top pick. Honor Up just seems like he's coming into this race fine. And if the 1 and the 2 hook up, doesn't Honor Up just hit the trip?
Yeah, he should fall into a trip if that happens. If this race was at 9 furlongs, I would not have picked against Mr. Buff. At the mile, I will do it with Honor Up, who I've just always liked. I think the mile fits him perfectly. And if he gets the right trip here, second off the layoff, he does have a race. They could at least make it close.
He does have a race, and it was that Carter from last year at Aqueduct. Mike's going with the 4-1 shot on David Aragona's morning line. Honor Up, 3-1-2-4 for Mike, 1-2-4-5 for me. It's the $100,000 Haynesfield, the feature at the Big A on Saturday, approximate post 4:50 Eastern. Good luck.